What's up, everybody? Welcome to Completely Arbortrary, the podcast about trees and other related topics. My name is Alex.
And my name is Casey Clapp. 2 P's.
Casey Clapp. 2 P's.
That's right, Alex.
In a pod. How you doing?
Very well. It's a beautiful day.
It is.
It is actually, it's a little bit of a sad day. It's so beautiful because we're in a fire watch right now.
I know.
Which is so silly. It's April in the wettest part of the wettest state.
Yeah, but it's still happening.
It's true. However, I don't know that this is, obviously it's probably, climate change, but I bet you this is, you get these kind of weird seasonal flukes where out of nowhere it doesn't rain for a while.
Wait, is this the episode where we find out that you're a denier?
Well, I've been holding out on you this whole time. I actually don't believe in climate change.
What a twist.
Yeah, it's lasers from satellites.
You know what I did this year that I'm proud of myself for?
No.
I ordered...
Well, yes, but you tell me.
I ordered some air filters.
Oh, okay, yeah.
For a box fan. Mm-hmm. For the inevitable smoke that will come with the fires this summer.
Oh, you're already prepared for it.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I didn't want to be searching everywhere and not be able to find them and choking to death.
Yeah, that's a good call. It's like get your toilet paper now.
Yes, exactly.
And
I ordered
the inevitable pandemic that's coming.
100%. I ordered a normal amount. I didn't buy out the stock. I'm not hoarding them, and I'm going to sell them for a profit.
Yeah, that's a good call.
But last year was fucking hellish.
It was so bad. So many people have commented, and we've talked about it, of all the things that happened during the pandemic.
Yeah.
When the entire western area of Oregon was covered in smoke.
Yeah.
It was like not even a pea soup smoke. It was so awful. And so many people have said that was the top worst thing that happened last year. On top of the pandemic, on top of all the other things that have happened in terms of the economy and that. As soon as all of a sudden it was like, now you can't even go outside. It's smoky everywhere.
Yeah.
It looked like, I don't know, like something from the... what is that old show? Not the X-Files, the older one.
Twilight Zone?
Yes, it felt like the Twilight Zone, but if it took place in Mordor.
That's pretty apt, Casey.
That's what I felt.
Yeah, it was really bad. I was driving my beater car on the freeway to take my dad to a doctor's appointment that I was nervous about, and I couldn't breathe. And I had to pull over. It was like I can't function right now.
It's so awful, yeah.
It was awful. There were a lot of things that happened to a lot of people last year that were terrible and that continue to happen. Mm-hmm. But that was one of them for us Portlanders, I think.
Yeah, it totally was. I mean, it absolutely was. For everyone in the valley here, for sure.
Yeah.
West side.
Yeah.
But luckily, we're not quite there yet.
No.
And ideally, it will rain sometime in the near future.
I sure hope so. It's in the forecast. Casey, I got to talk about something up top.
Yes.
I talked to you about it off pod before we started recording, and I said, I think the best way to do this is just for me to say it on mic.
I think that's fair.
I'm not feeling too great today. Emotionally, mentally, I'm feeling a little down. I'm really stressed.
Yeah.
I haven't slept in 2 days.
That's astounding, Alex.
Yeah, it sucks. I'm really tired until I lay in my bed, and then a circus goes off in my head.
Oh, that's the worst. I know what you mean.
Yeah, so I'm not feeling all that passionate about anything, particularly trees.
Oh God, what?
But this is going to be a fun arc because possibly by the end of this episode, I will be I'll be up again. And if I'm not, that's also okay.
Well, that's ideal.
Yeah.
Well, we are all here with you. And
thank you.
I hope that you start feeling better. We know that Solo is on your mind.
Yes.
He's still kicking over here.
Solo's on my mind. Per usual. But Casey, let's not talk about depressing shit anymore. Let's talk about our good friend, the tree of the week.
The tree of the week. What a fun thing to say.
The common Hawthorn.
I am happy. I think this is going to be the one to bring you up because the common Hawthorn, otherwise known as Crataegus monogyna.
Whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
One more time.
Crataegus.
Crataegus?
Yes. Crataegus. Monogyna.
Here we go.
Isn't that fun? It means literally one seed, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is Crataegus?
Crataegus is, I guess, I think it's just, it's the name for Hawthorn, but I don't know.
It sounds
it
like an era.
Oh, yes. Oh, the Crataegus era.
Yes.
Well, there is the Cretaceous era.
I'm kind of
Epoch.
conflating it with that. And when I saw this name before, I said in my head Crataegus.
Oh, it means, it actually comes from the Greek kratos, meaning strength in reference to its wood.
That's right, Kratos. He is the God of War guy.
Really?
It's a video game.
Yeah. Oh, I know the video game. At least I've heard of it.
That's Kratos.
That's the end of it. Oh, okay. Is it? What is it?
Jeez.
Strength. Isn't there another guy like Prometheus or something who's like
Atlas, who holds up the world?
Yes. Is he also known as strong?
I think he is very strong. He holds up the world.
That's
Casey.
true. Yeah, I guess that's possible.
You got to be strong these days.
Yeah, this is a tough world. Tough world
to hold up on your shoulders,
Well,
Atlas.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it means strength. That's what it is.
Okay.
Crataegus, strong.
Am I to gather from that it's a hard wood?
It is. That's my understanding. I have cut it with a chainsaw, but I don't think I've ever actually axed one because I cut it into sizes that it was small enough. You could just burn it.
I see.
It has a delightful scent, though. It's very heavy.
The scent?
Yes, I think it smells nice. Like, not the wood, not the flower. In fact,
the wood smells heavy?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I mean, it doesn't smell heavy. It is heavy, and it smells nice when you burn it.
But see, when you said it, when I misunderstood it as smells heavy, I also understood what that meant. Like, that to me says like a heavy, thick smell.
I
like,
see. Pungent.
Overtakes your senses.
I gotcha. Yeah, I don't think it was like that. It wasn't quite for me.
Okay.
But now I kind of want to burn some more Hawthorn and see.
Let's get it going.
Yeah, hold on. I'll go get my matches.
Casey, let's imagine as we... we should say... We recently were in Japan
last week.
And we hopped on a supersonic jet. Mm-hmm. You know what?
Those
I think
Concords with an E.
Okay, I was going to suggest that we got on one of those like Red Bull space shuttles.
It just arced up and then waited for the Earth to rotate so we can come straight back down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how the cool people do it.
Yeah, that's when you you open the Red Bull below your chin, and then because of the arc and the gravity, it flows up into your mouth.
Man, that's how you drink a Red Bull.
Oh, that's exactly how I drink my Red Bulls.
That's how you get those wings.
Yeah, I squeeze it so hard, and it shoots up. All right.
Like a cartoon.
Yeah, exactly. Like spinach.
That made me think of Popeye.
Old Popeye.
His spinach.
Does he ever use a can opener, Popeye? Did he ever do that?
I think he uses his teeth.
Oh, what a guy, man. I think I need to go get a sailor tattoo like he had.
Oh yeah, he had a great tattoo set.
Yeah, he did.
So we get up in this space shuttle.
Uh-huh.
The Earth rotates just enough. We free base out, and you know us, a couple of adrenaline junkies.
That's
We're
right.
Cruising on down to the magical land of Ireland.
Ooh.
And that is where we find the common hawthorn.
The Emerald Isle.
The Emerald Isle. Casey.
Yep.
Let's imagine that we have landed in a forest, safe and sound,
Yep.
because we're also expert landers.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a parachute down, you know, there's press. It was a whole thing.
How about this? We get our parachute stuck in a hawthorn, or at least I do, and you land safely, and you look up and say, Alex, that's a hawthorn. And I say, well, what are we seeing? What are we smelling?
What am I looking at? You got it.
Let's talk about it.
All right. The first thing that's going to happen is you're going to be upset because you're going to be very scraped because per its name, it has these little tiny thorns.
Oh, hawthorn.
That's right. And they used to, so haw is the, basically haw in Old English and Old, I think, no, maybe not Gaelic, just Old English, comes from hawthorn, hedgethorn, meaning like it's the thorny bush that grows in the hedge. So it's another classic hedge tree over there in England. Well, I guess greater the UK, because it grows over in the Emerald Isles in Scotland, England, Wales, down into Central Central Europe, and I think even there's a couple bit in North Africa in the mountains and over in the the western side of Russia, Eastern Europe.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's another common little tree that grows around. You'll also see it's not very tall. You're actually probably going to be just a few feet off the ground when your strings are hanging up in the tree.
Yeah.
Like, you're a tall guy, so maybe you'll be like a foot off the ground.
My toes are scraping the forest floor.
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be a nice little, countryside of grasses there.
Okay.
And you're just going to be hanging out. It's going to have these beautiful white blossoms. Again, it's in the rose family. So all these little beautiful blossoms are just 5-petaled, 5 stamens, 5 sepals, 5 pistils. And they just, they're really beautiful. They look, I would describe them, and I also saw some magnolias that I would also describe as this. They look to me like clouds that have blossomed from the earth.
Wow.
I just think they're so bushy, and the texture of their flowers make it look to me like it is a cloud, like the way that you draw a cloud as a kid, like just these kind of big circles and little like squiggles. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that, but it's three-dimensional.
It does look like that. When I look at it, it reminds me a bit of fur.
Oh, really?
Like imagine like an ancient king would wear like a white fur kind of
like a sash,
mink. Yeah, sash. It looks a bit like that to me.
Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah.
You look at it from a distance. Obviously, when you get up close, it's flowers, Alex.
It does. It looks beautiful though, almost like a snow-covered peak.
Do these flowers also have the Japanese cherry issue where some are sterile and grow more flowers instead of...
I'm sure that there are, but I don't actually know of any cultivars right off the top of my head that do that.
Okay.
But I guarantee that there are. It's another one of those trees that people have been messing around with and planting all over the place for decades and centuries.
Okay.
But this tree specifically has not been known to be quite as cultivated as the Japanese cherry used to be and still is. It was more just a forest tree that kind of grew out in the forest, and it's kind of the edge lands between forest and where they would become a farm field, but it would also grow in like singular areas off of like in the middle of big fields or something like that.
Yes, and I have something to say about that later.
Oh, yes. Oh, we have so much to say. I'm so excited to get into this promiscuous tree. Ooh. Well, it would, you're also going to have these like adorable little leaves, and I have to say, the hawthorn leaves, I think they are the definition of adorable. Ooh. I don't know why. I mean, there's plenty of small leaves, but these are just like a quintessential tiny little leaf. They're a simple leaf with like lobes, kind of like an oak leaf, but instead of the oaks where the oaks kind of come out and flare a little bit at the end, these don't do that. They kind of come out either kind of triangularly or kind of rounded triangles back in, and then their lobes get a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller until there's just a central top lobe at the very end of that mid vein.
Yeah, I like them a lot. They're what would you call that? They're pinnately kind of semi-lobed.
Yeah, I would say that's exactly it.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends, and this is kind of one of those things where it's like, is it deep serrations or is it little lobes?
Oh,
who knows? Right?
They look like more serrations to me.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
They
There's
also
variation
look lobed.
too.
I don't know.
Yeah,
the lobes look serrated.
I think that is true. They have little tiny serrations on there, but not a whole lot. Yeah. It looks like our trusty Oregon State would call them deeply incised, or 3 to 7 lobed.
Incised?
So, yes, incised, which basically means they have like this sharp cut into them.
Ah, as in incisor.
Exactly, yeah, which is a sharp one, right?
Yeah, I think
there you go.
The vampire tooth.
Yes, yeah, vampire toothus. That's the name of an octopus.
Vampire toothus?
I think it's Vampiros toothus.
Oh my!
Something like that.
I have a new favorite animal.
Yeah, it's on planet Earth. I'll find it for you. Is planet Earth life? I don't know. It's one of those cool ones.
Is it a bloodsucker?
I don't think so. It lives like way down in the deep, and so when you like come across it, I think it's red.
Right.
It's one of those times where science and culture line up, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna name this Vampiros toothus.
That's cool.
Something like that.
It's
pretty rad.
It shapes its home out of coral in the shape of a coffin.
I hope so. Yeah, and sleeps with its hands across its chest.
Yeah, all eight tentacles.
8 of them.
We're on our way to a Pixar movie.
Oh,
here.
yes, we are. Oh, man. Well, it's let's see. So the other thing about it, monogyna, with that one single seed,
what is that?
Or single ovary is what that means. So basically, it just has one seed in the middle. Some hawthorns will have a couple little seeds, but this will have one red pome, is what it's called, Pome. It's another one of those good ones for Scrabble.
Oh, yeah.
If you're ever doing Scrabble and you only have Pome, and you're like, well, I really want to spell poem, but it's not in the right location.
Right.
Switch the M and the E, and you got poem.
So when you're talking seed, that's the pome is the seed, and it's the little fruit, the little red fruit.
Yeah. Oh, the red fruit is called a pome.
And has a seed inside.
Has one single seed, monogyna, one ovary.
I see.
And what's fun? Here's an interesting fact. Are you familiar with an apple?
I've loosely, yeah.
Yeah, loosely. I mean, I've heard of it. I've seen it in the grocery store. I don't get close to it.
Yeah.
Well, an apple is also a pome. How do you feel about the pears?
I love pears.
Ooh, familiar with pears? Also a pome.
Now, pome doesn't mean one seed.
No.
Okay.
Pome is just the kind of fruit. Of course, apples and pears have 5 seeds famously. You know,
That's what was confusing.
You're a kid. Yeah. So you're good there. You're on track here.
Okay.
But here's what's interesting about a pome, and this is why I wanted to bring it up. A lot of people don't know this. Have you noticed, per se, a difference in the texture between an apple, an apple and a pear, and say another kind of fruit like a peach or a tomato or something else? They're very, very different.
Yeah,
like the textures.
Apples and pears are kind of starchy, especially apples.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you know why that is the case?
I don't.
Oh,
Casey.
Alex, come on. I thought you were going to guess this one. So here is the thing with the pome. It is actually stem tissue that is creating the fleshy bits that make it as delicious as it is. And here's how you can tell.
Oh.
If you look on the bottom of a hawthorn, an apple, and a pear, what do you see? If you flip that upside down on the opposite side of the stem,
It's a little butt.
yeah, you see those little sepals coming out of there, right?
Yeah.
So those are the same exact sepals that are on the outside of the flower. So the flower petals are those big white or pink things that you see. And then the green things that are just below that are called the sepals. And those are at the base of the flower, right where the receptacle is, which is the part that holds the flower onto the stem.
Oh.
And that receptacle ends up basically getting... it kind of subtends itself, and then the stem tissue below it and around it starts to kind of grow out, and that becomes the fruit. So if you have the sepals, everything above the sepals that goes up towards the stem that's actually holding the little fruit onto the apple onto the twig, that big orange or yellow or delicious red, that is actually modified stem tissue at the base of the flower that is then turned into the fruit that we eat. That's what a pome is.
Wow. Half of your time saying all that.
Yeah.
I was thinking I was making an accidental connection. I was like, stem tissue, like stem cell.
Oh, yes.
You're
twig.
talking stems, which makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Because sometimes you bite into an apple and you're like, oh God, it feels like I'm chewing wood. There's like that little butt part that like feels so unnatural to eat.
Yeah.
And that's because that's partly stem.
Yeah, exactly.
That's stem tissue.
It is stem tissue.
What are some other fruits that are pomes?
That are pomes. Honestly, those are the big 3.
Okay.
There are a couple others. I'd have to look. I think the quince is technically a pome, and there's a couple others.
Kumquat, possibly, if I'm picturing it.
I don't think a kumquat is. I think
Okay.
isn't a kumquat those little citrus fruits that you can eat, like the whole thing?
Mm-hmm.
No, not that. I
Okay.
don't believe it is.
Okay.
But most famously, it's hawthorns, apples, and pears,
Okay.
and then a couple other things that are around. A couple other things in the rose family.
So you would call them you would call these fruits hawthorns?
Yes, in fact, they historically and sort of in folklore and folk words, they would just call them a haw.
Aw.
Yeah, there's a haw. So a hawthorn would be the one that the thorny haw.
Where do the thorns take place on a hawthorn? I don't see any.
They're kind of all over the place. This one sometimes doesn't have it near as much, but the other ones do. Like there's one called the cockspur hawthorn, and that one has like an inch-long thorn that comes out of it.
Jeez.
Yeah, and a lot of times, this one it has thorns less often than what you'd expect, but there's some hawthorn species in Cretaceous that have like massive thorns all the time. But these ones usually they're somewhere on the twig. Usually they're around the base of the leaf, so that if you're an animal trying to eat the leaf, you're just going to get poked in the mouth with a little thorn.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, that's smart design by the tree.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in this case, I'm trying to wonder if it's a lot of times thorns are actually modified leaves of some kind.
Really?
Yeah, but it can be like a stipule, which is a little bit at the base of a leaf where the petiole comes in. It could also be just another leaf that's completely turned into a thorn 100%, and then the bud pops into a new leaf. That happens in cactus all the time, where the leaves are the thorns, and they don't do any photosynthesis. They've just been modified to be these pokey, terrible things.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to set you up for more information. Are you ready for it?
Well, I'm ready, Alex.
I look at the picture. I look at the picture. There's one picture of a hawthorn on Google. It's amazing.
That's the only one.
I look at pictures of hawthorns and I think, wow, that thing is... I personally love the way it looks. I think I called it before we started recording. I called it charmingly rustic.
Charmingly rustic. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It just looks like, I don't know, fucked up, but like in a cool way.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the morphology of the hawthorn. Why are they so craggy and grizzled and messed up? Maybe I'm just looking at this one photo of a really old, battered hawthorn.
Yeah. Well, they just kind of grow like that. They're again, it's kind of another thing of a lot of rose family little trees. So pears and peaches and cherries, apples, all those kinds of things. Is whether like the white beam. Also, there are other. I took a second to find some other poems just to make sure I could give you a good answer.
Oh, okay.
Cotoneaster, medlar, pear, pyracantha. The loquat, not the kumquat.
Oh,
loquat.
Loquat.
The white beam, which is essentially the rowan tree, which is also, we call it a mountain ash over here, sorbus.
I haven't heard of any of these.
Well, we got time, Alex. But they are so a lot of times they grow like that, kind of scraggly, because they do a lot of sprouting. And that is kind of the thing that you can see, like crab apples are another great example. A lot of different kinds of cherries where, pears do this often, where basically they grow out, and if something breaks or something, they are really intense about sending up shoots.
Oh, so, a little hydra-like.
Yeah, exactly. And so they will do that a lot and absolutely go wild.
Okay.
So let's say you're hanging out, there's a nice storm, it kind of breaks one of the branches. Then it'll send up a bunch of shoots. But then if it's out in the wild, then it's just going to grow with those shoots. Or if an animal comes, that'll send out more shoots from there. So it reacts to that kind of damage.
Okay.
But also it just kind of grows whenever it gets the opportunity. So if it is growing up and it's a perfect nice stem, and then there's some light, it'll like, I'm just going to pop a bud out over here. And then it puts a new branch from, wherever an old tree was, or maybe there's a branch that broke off or something else. Just any kind of change in conditions.
I see.
And they'll react to it by sending out a bunch of new twigs.
I think that's really cool. It kind of paints them as like supreme like opportunists.
That's a really good way to look at it.
I guess most trees are, though, don't you reckon?
I would say so, but I think you're onto something here, because I think there are some trees that are much better at it than other trees, where there's like conifers, for instance. They're not going to, most of them, they don't sprout at all.
Yeah.
Famously, a couple pines and redwoods do, but if you cut a Douglas fir down below where there's any leaves, that thing's toast. It's done.
Yeah.
It's not going to take advantage of anything else. Every now and then, if it's still alive, it'll put out new buds. But you're exactly, I think you're onto something, because they are, if you cut them down, if you cut anything about them, if you leave their roots intact, they will come back. They will just keep on fighting.
Willows are similar, right?
Yes, totally. Yeah.
Is it something to do with broadleaf trees?
No, because some broadleafs won't do that either. Like oaks certainly will. Most broadleafs will probably sprout in some regard, but some will do it a lot more than others. Like these sorts of stone fruit or pome fruit cherries and rose family things. They'll do it often, but oaks probably won't do it near as much. Lindens will do it, but not crazy. If you cut a linden down, it'll sprout, but it's not going to be a sprout where if you get one broken branch, it's going to send out a bunch of sprouts. Hawthorns and apples and pears, they'll just sprout off of any wound anywhere.
Interesting.
And that's just what they do.
Good for them.
Yeah, but a lot of times you can get one that has a nice single stem if you grow it up perfectly and you be very careful with it, but you nick the roots a little bit or you nick the base of it with a weed whacker, it's toast. You're just going to get sprouts forever.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Well, Case, I think we should take a V-short break.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Okay. We'll be right back with more Hawthorn talk.
V-short.
Right here on Completely Arbortrary. Welcome back to Completely Arbortrary. Today we're talking common hawthorn, the Irish jewel in the crown.
That's what it is.
Casey, we have so darn much to talk about, my friend.
I have to admit to you, when we first were planning to do this tree, I was like, all right, this is a tree. I know it. It's planted around here really often, and it's actually semi-invasive. But I was like, I don't really know that much about it, I guess. It's a tree that is so common, it's almost ubiquitous.
It's got common in its name.
It does, yeah. In fact, I usually over here, I would call it the English hawthorn, but I realized there are some people who would listen to it and call it the common hawthorn.
I say we call it the Irish hawthorn.
I think that sounds lovely.
I think they've earned it.
Yeah, there you go, Ireland. So these trees, meaning when I say they, I mean these trees, not the Irish.
Okay.
They're common. I see them all over the place, and I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. And then I had to like sit here and be like, well, what are we going to talk about when we talk about this tree? And then you, of course, brought up folklore in terms of fairies.
That's right. I love me a fairy.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll start looking into it. So I started where I always start, and I know everyone is probably going to have opinion on this.
Oh.
I love Wikipedia. Wikipedia is the best. It's the perfect place to start doing your research because you can just branch off into 1,000 different things and then just go find, what is that? And then Google that, and then you'll get like much better resources that are much more in depth.
Yeah,
but,
Wikipedia is so underrated.
God, it's just so underrated. My grandpa, he hates it. He doesn't even use a computer, but he's so against Wikipedia.
Interesting.
I just think it's the best.
Casey, would you do me a favor as we do every episode? Would you click on that lamp?
You're welcome. So as I am thinking about this tree, I was looking through it and I realized that you're totally right. This tree has a ridiculous amount of folklore that comes with it, and it might have changed my mind a little bit about it in terms of my my rating on it.
Well, look at this.
I've learned so many things about this Hawthorn.
Goodness, it's like we're trading places.
Exactly. This is what it is.
Wow.
So this is a common tree known to your standard 16th century peasant. Duh. And I was just stunned with how many people loved this tree and what it meant to a villager in 16th century Ireland.
Well, funny you should say that because the impetus, is that the right word?
Yes.
Beginning.
I was like, I don't know what your next thing is going to say.
The impetus of this I almost said this relationship. Casey, my brain is melting down.
He's literally melting.
The impetus of this episode was a listener email.
That's true.
Somebody suggested that we talk about the common hawthorn. I'm so sorry that listener. I don't remember your name, listener.
Yes, we will find you.
Yeah, possibly.
So I'm so glad that the listener brought this up because, oh my gosh, you also did research on this because you were really excited about it.
I did do research.
All
Anytime we talk mythology or any sort of mythological creature, I'm on board almost instantly.
Oh, fantastic.
So I'm very much into fairies, and you can quote me on that.
And you can quote me on that. I will. So historically, the common hawthorn was where fairies lived.
Yes.
And this is kind of an interesting thing. When you look back on like the etymology of the word fairy, it went from like fairyland or there's a bunch of different words depending on if you are Scottish or Old English or in Wales, like elfim and elfane. Yeah.
I feel like almost every culture has their version of a fairy.
They totally do. But these, like the old Celtic culture in the basically the UK, what is now the UK, all those old tribes and old peoples, they went pretty in depth into it. Yeah, and they had like it started as like this mythical land that was called fairyland, and then or fairyland and all these things. I'm just going to use fairy because it's an archaic term and I like using them. So they just called it fairyland, and then all of a sudden, at some point in time, it stopped referring to the place, the mythical location where these inhabitants live, to the fairies themselves as the individuals.
Okay.
And they lived in these old ancient hawthorn trees, the common hawthorn.
See, now this is where our research is starting to differ a little bit.
Oh, I want to know.
Which is exciting, right? That's what you want.
It's exactly.
From what I read, AKA this one article, she says that the hawthorn is a portal to the fairy world.
Yes, so it's that too. That's the thing where it kind of became like, do they live in the tree or do you go through the tree to get to them? There's other myths about people having to go into the ocean to get to this land or like go on a famous boat for like 3 days and like go on some big intense journey is always what it is.
Yeah, maybe it's both. Maybe it's like a gatehouse and there have to be guards in the gatehouse.
It goes back to what you were asking about the how the tree itself is like so gnarly and old. Like they're really tough wooded trees. They still decay like anything else, but they would grow to such weird like extents where it would like break apart, but then it would sprout from those breaks, and those now new sprouts would become trees and large stems in their own right, growing off of these old decaying tree stems that are still getting larger and decaying, and then a new one would break and it would create this weird like gnarly looking old like individual grove of one tree.
Yeah, it almost looks like a broken fist with like
oh my god
stuff growing out.
Yeah,
of
with
it.
like new fingers coming out of it. Yeah, and they don't get very tall, but then they at the end of this like super gnarly looking like then they bloom beautiful every springtime, every May specifically, and this is why it's a promiscuous tree.
Let's
Alex,
hear about it.
So classically there used to be two different kinds of calendars, right? There used to be the Julian calendar, and then we switched over in sometime, I think in the 1700s or something, to the Gregorian calendar.
Okay.
And it ended up taking away a certain amount of days. And so it used to be May Day, which was like this big Celtic celebration historically, because it was like basically the solstice in, I guess it would be the autumnal, the vernal equinox.
Okay.
It was just in, it was a little bit after that. Either way, it was this day during like the most intense amount of growth during the spring. So of course, for those of you who aren't familiar with England or the temperate regions of, say, Northern Europe, it is a deciduous land almost through and through, where everything will lose its leaves and then kind of go dormant. And then in springtime, all this mythology came because that's when all of the new plants or the old plants would put on all this new growth. All the leaves come back, from barren, what would be barren land, all of a sudden, wow, comes up all this other stuff.
Not a lot of evergreen plants in
There's not a lot.
UK?
There's some like Scotch pine or Scots pine. Those are there.
Okay.
And there's a couple sparing other kinds of conifers. And then there's like heaths and heathers. And there's evergreen plants, especially as you go further to the north into Scotland, or if you go like hardcore on the coast.
But not a lot of trees.
Not a lot of trees. It's a deciduous forest. At least it was before it almost entirely got cut down and turned into farmland.
You gotta build your palisade walls out of something.
You got to do it out of something. So it ended up becoming this the like whole springtime sort of literally sexuality came from or was embodied by this tree. So you've heard of like May Day and Beltane, like these kinds of basically pagan holidays, right?
Yes, Beltane, the spring festival.
Yes. So there used to be basically on May Day, there was a festival where all of the young kids, and I guess it would be, I don't want to say kids, but all the adolescents in the village would sneak out of their houses on this one night during May, and they'd go out into the woods and under the guise of collecting hawthorn boughs, and they'd come back in the morning with their hands full of all these cut branches filled with hawthorn blooms. They would really just go out and have a bunch of hanky-panky in the woods.
Hanky-panky.
And that's what, so this tree represents like this sort of kind of like new spring growth and fertility, because then, 9 months later, after you had this great spring celebration, there's a bunch of kids jumping out.
They're out there making whoopee.
It's exactly what they did.
The hanky-panky, the whoopee.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I've heard of that before in terms of like what, people used to do. And I'm just like, really? That's I love that as a pagan holiday. Just all the kids sneak out, go have sex, and then come back to the village with flowers. Like, I was just out picking flowers, Mom. No worries.
Well, Casey, it's funny. In this article, my one article that I read, says the blossoms are said to be highly erotic to men.
Yes, I'm sure.
Which perhaps explains why Ireland did such a roaring trade in exporting hawthorn flowers.
Ireland's like, oh yeah, we're going to get this all over the world. Wherever we go, we're going to be comfortable. I could see that. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Well, it's also been been used in a bunch of different medicinal things for many different years, for many different things over many years, and you can like make jellies out of the berries and poultices and things out of the leaves and the twigs and the inner bark, but Another thing that's kind of fun about this is that as we transition from more or less kind of pagan things in the 1500s, there was a lot of like demonology, I guess, and I mean in the sense that people were demonizing pagan rituals in terms of like they were becoming much more conservatively Christian, right?
Right.
And it turns out that if you were like conversing with the May Queen or the Spring Queen, it would be like this Hawthorn kind of representation. Like we're saying, it was this gateway to the fairyland.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they used to always be like, those trees are like scary. Like they have like witches work with them and like come out of them. And so like the tree, if you like, they were like, yeah, she was hanging around a hawthorn tree all day yesterday.
Oh shit.
Like, she's a witch.
Wow.
I don't know if it was quite that like, obvious, but I love it. Always makes me think of there was one story I read where what was it, a guy, they said that this woman came and asked this factory, this mill, for some food, and they said, get out of here. So she cursed him, and then all the grain turned red. And then when one guy ran back and like gave her some food, then she took the curse away and everything went back to normal.
Okay.
And it reminds me of the
Wait, that's the entire story?
yeah, well then she got like persecuted because they're like, she must be a witch because she did this. And I think it then became a witch trial. But the thing, what is the Holy Grail, Monty Python, where the guy's like, she turned me into a toad.
Yeah.
And everyone's looking at him. He's like, well, I got better. That's kind of like what that is. But then also it's just on a whim, someone would just be like, you're a witch because you were doing this thing or something weird happened, and they just freaked out. They were so skittish, those people.
She turned the oats red when you weren't looking, and now they're back to normal. I swear.
I swear it happened.
That's fascinating. I also know from this article that hawthorn wood is the most powerful wand wood.
I learned that too.
Now, I am not the kind of person to ask people to send us things, but we have actually gotten some very nice mail.
Oh, we did. You guys are so sweet.
We very recently, today, you brought over some maple cookies.
Oh, so
from a Canadian.
Delicious, you guys. I can't.
Wait,
this is so
should
lovely.
we shout out that person? You want to?
Yeah.
What's the name of that person on that box? Casey's getting up to look at the Canadian postage box. I guess it's Canadian Postal Service. But who sent us those candies?
Well,
but I do want to get back to the thing I was going to say, but I want to shout out this person.
Chanel Zephyropoulos.
Yes, thanks, Chanel.
Thank you so much.
I had one and it was delicious.
We also got some charms from Art Charms in Niagara Falls.
Yes,
Thank
those
you.
are amazing, and I am already
Guys.
thinking of what to do with them.
We've also got some books that were sent our way, and we got a couple other cards and lovely things. Honestly, you guys are sweet as heck.
Yes, if it actually now that we
Pray
mention
to my
it,
hawthorn tree.
if people continue to send us things, I really want to do some Patreon episodes where we
I think we should.
unbox all these things.
Oh, that's right. I should wait to unbox them. I'm just so excited.
No, it's I'm glad you opened that one because it had cookies in it, and
It's
I
true.
love food. But I want to say, if anybody out there has a piece of hawthorn wood that they could send me,
so that you can turn it into a wand.
so that I could just have it in my home and feel the powers of the fae.
I think it's reasonable, yeah.
I just want one around me.
Well, this is one thing. So remember earlier at the very beginning, I was telling you that I'm kind of like, I don't know, this is this tree wasn't fancy to me. And then I, of course, sometimes do research for this. Other times I just look at you and I tell you things hoping you're going to believe me.
I knew it.
As I was looking at this, I'm like, what is this? The hawthorn has all these different things.
Yeah.
There was another story that it's called the hawthorn. It's a tree that was Gastonberry. It's the Gastonberry thorn. And
I wonder if it's Gastonbury.
oh, it probably is.
You know, like those UKers. They always shorten that last syllable.
They do. All right. Yeah, I'm going to let you say that one from now on.
The Gastonbury thorn.
Yes, made by Joseph. This is the legend that
Okay.
Joseph of Arimathea. I think it's Arimathea maybe, but I'm pretty sure it's a ch. Anyway, he was allegedly the guy that was put in charge of burying Jesus Christ and like took him off the crucifixion or crucifix. And legend has it that he himself went from Jerusalem all the way up into England and basically took a staff that he had and was like, "Ow!" in Glastonbury, slammed it into the ground and demanded like that this flower grew, or didn't. I don't even know if he demanded. He just slammed a staff into the ground, and from that staff grew a hawthorn, and it bloomed right on Christmas, right in the middle of like the worst, harshest time when the days are shortest. And that is now called the biflora hawthorn, and it grows all through this area called Glastonbury. And
it's a variant of the hawthorn?
It's a variant, yeah.
Or it's just another hawthorn species?
I think it's another variant. It would be another.
Okay,
I don't think
variant.
cultivar, just a variety of some kind.
Yeah.
And it's of the same tree, but it blooms twice a year. It blooms during the like really late and like midwinter, and then it's not super huge. It's just a couple little tiny flowers. But then it blooms again, like the big massive spring blooms that the whole tree's famous for.
What's happening there? How does that work?
Who knows? It's just a variant. Maybe for whatever reason, that tree just gets this, weird timing. Maybe there's, who knows? I'm not sure.
It's got a screw loose.
Yeah, it totally does.
So this is fascinating. I like that story.
Yeah.
Is it possible from such an industrious, hardworking tree like the hawthorn to take something made out of hawthorn wood that is completely removed from the roots and the stems or the branches or whatever, the leaves,
and put it back in the ground,
totally dead, and to put it in the ground, do you think it would grow? I'm not asking you to refute or confirm this story of Jesus.
Of Joseph of Arimathea.
Yeah.
Yes.
But would that be possible to take like a staff or something made of wood and put it in the ground and a tree grows from it? Is this like the stupidest question you've ever heard someone ask?
Alex, absolutely not.
I thought you were going to just say absolutely.
Absolutely it is. No.
As I was asking, I could feel my face get red. It's like, I'm making a fool out of myself.
No, you are not. There are other questions
that I've asked.
Yeah, so you just didn't think they were as bad.
Yeah.
No, this one is a fine question. The answer really would be no, because it's the cambium that's on the outside of it that has to be still there.
Interesting.
So if you just take a stick and put it in there, it's not going to do anything. But like if you take a little switch of willow and hawthorn and a bunch of other plants and you just stick that in the ground when it's dormant, it'll start putting roots out.
What about a slice of log with the bark and cambium still intact? You just plunked it on the ground.
Yes, I believe I've actually seen that, where
That's
dormant
amazing.
buds on the outside have actually started and popped and started to grow.
Actually, I think I've seen that too, Casey.
You have? I really?
We saw it at the same place, I believe.
Where
or was
was
that
it?
a stump at that bachelor party we went to?
Oh, that was a stump that had grafted onto other trees.
Oh, okay.
Yes, a little bit different.
Yeah, it's far different.
Yeah, but
different.
Far different, quite
Sure,
different.
yes.
Further different
That is more further farish different,
than otherwise.
Casey.
Well said. There's also this tree also is because it lives and has like this gnarly appearance. It actually can live for several hundred years.
That doesn't surprise me one bit.
Not one bit. Which
it
also
looks like it can live forever.
It totally does. There's some that are, in fact, I have read that there's one that is growing in a commune in France that is, in fact, the oldest tree in France.
Wow.
Of any species at all. And it was allegedly planted in the 3rd century.
What's it called?
All right, well, this is going to be awful, but I believe it's called, it's planted in a commune called Saint-Marc-sur-la-Futaie.
I think that was probably perfect.
Thank you. Merci.
I can't confirm, of course.
Yes, no one can confirm this. Just like no one can confirm if that tree's actually like 1,700 years old.
Yeah.
Maybe. But there's another one that's actually in the tiniest, it is the smallest preserve in Britain called the Hethel Old Thorn. That's the name of the thing. It's the tiniest little spit of land that is protected in this as like a part of a wildlife kind of protection area. And there's only one thing within this little tiny protected area. I think it's like less than a small acre.
Wow.
And it's this one old tree that they have confirmed is, I think it was growing for 700 years. And in the mid 1700s, They measured it as 9 feet in diameter.
Holy cow.
And it's slowly been falling apart and rebuilding itself ever since. And now it's like not quite a tree anymore.
Wow.
Still alive, still kicking.
Wow, it's just like a pile of tree.
Yeah, exactly. That's the perfect way to describe it. But the more that I lean this, the more I'm like, well, maybe that is how you get to Fairyland. Like, I'm kind of getting more and more convinced.
Yeah,
we should talk about it.
Season 3, Fairy World.
Fairy World.
We're going in.
We're just going to start talking about all the trees that everyone has told us about that live in these fairy lands.
Yeah.
That'd be so cool.
Wow. Mythological trees.
Yes.
There's something. There's a Patreon episode.
Yeah, there you go, you guys. Send us your favorite mythological trees.
Yeah. Before we wrap up our discussion of the common hawthorn, Casey, I want to go back to the very beginning and talk about this as a fairy portal. And just briefly mention that often the hawthorns that are sort of appropriated as fairy portals by humans will sort of from this article, and everything I'm about to say is from this one article. This is the depth of my research.
The good news is I have confirmed much of what you're saying with other articles.
Fantastic.
And other things that I've heard and read about.
Loving that. So it looks like most hawthorns that humans appropriate as fairy trees will be the ones that you'll find in the middle of a field.
Yeah.
That are just kind of growing solitarily, and aren't just surrounded by other trees because they're more special because they're like out on their own.
Yeah. They've made shrines around some of these trees, like old Gaelic places.
And also even
pagan
tying things, little tokens to the branches. Yeah. Scrap of paper with a prayer on it or a gift for the fairies.
I've also heard that they would tie or they would collect the dew off of the flowers and wash their hands. Men would wash their hands with it, hoping that they would be better at their craft, as well as women would wash their faces in it to become more beautiful.
That's incredible.
It's like a spring cleaning.
I hope to live in a world where women wash their hands to improve their craft as well.
I think that would be a nice world.
Casey, also, maybe that was where my knowledge ends. I set myself up for more, but I think I'm done.
Well, I think you're on the right track. Where it's still venerated. I think it's another one of those trees, and I think I brought this up a while back in the sense of like. Indigenous sort of culture and how it relates to trees.
Yeah.
And this is very much a situation like that. It just happens to be that this culture has also been like absolutely painted across the globe and has become somewhat American culture. And like, there's a lot of different corruptions of what it was. But if you go back to, 1700, 1500 Ireland, that was still an indigenous people that, they had obviously had battles and wars and fought other people, but their culture and their sort of reverence for this tree is hundreds and thousands of years old. And it's come from all these different traditions, like, these May traditions, right? Just the same as anything else. So maybe the Irish who have come over to Portland may not hold that same reverence for our native hawthorn or something.
Yeah.
Which is totally fair because there's a whole other peoples that live here that have been like, we see this tree in a completely different way.
It's fascinating the way that humans interact with trees.
Really is
from sort of a spiritual standpoint.
Yeah, even afraid of it. There's an article from the BBC that as I'm reading through here and just clicking around on these things, and it's an old I think 1964 video, and they were building a road, and there was this old hawthorn tree, and they were like, we don't. Move the road. You can't just put it right there. It's a fairy tree. You can't just do that. And then the workers ripped the tree out in like kind of the dead of night kind of thing. They were just like, we're just gonna get it over with. And the whole town like just was like super upset and B a little bit afraid because they're just like, you just kind of like tore this tree down.
Wow.
That's real bad juju. And the interviewer's like, do you know what happens if someone does this? And the lady's like, well, he got a strain of something and he died. He's dead since he pulled that tree up. And then another guy, I couldn't understand him. I had to listen to it like 3 times because he's just an old 1960s Irishman, and his accent he was talking very fast.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know, go to hell, basically. So even in the 1960s, this culture was still there, and people was like, I'm not going to cut down that tree. I don't want to get that strain.
That's incredible. Well, if you're listening to this and you're an Irish person and you have some sort of connection to the hawthorn spiritually, actually.
Please tell us about it.
Holler at us. Casey, I think it's a fantastic time to get to our review of the common hawthorn. The very last thing, actually, I'll save it for my review.
Oh, okay.
As our resident expert, we begin with you.
All right. So I was thinking about this one, as I always do. Every time I give a rating, it is 100% researched, thorough. I write a full paper on it, and I discuss it, I review it, and then finally I meditate on it for 3 to 4 weeks.
And you teach a 4-credit class at
yes.
Yale?
An unestablished university. I don't want to.
Ooh, sorry. Yeah. I'll edit out Yale.
Thank you. Just put a beep. So when I was thinking about this one, I was like, okay, yeah, I hate this tree. This is one of my least favorite trees.
Wow.
I was ready to do it because I'm like, all right, cool, we're going to talk about this tree. But then, you go out on the streets and you're like, that's a hawthorn. It's like, I hate this tree's in the way. It's pokey. I can't walk around through it, and I got to measure it, and it sends up all these shoots, and it looks trashy. Mm-hmm. I don't like it out here. It's semi-invasive. It does goofy stuff. Alex, you're giving me that face again.
No, I'm not.
I know. But here's the thing. It's the same. Out here, we plant it in the streets a lot, and everyone likes it because it has these beautiful flowers, right? And there's also a pink variety that everyone really likes, and they're really beautiful. I don't think the flowers smell that good. Most people don't. They kind of smell pretty bad. Okay. I don't think anyone likes them.
Are they
look
like
beautiful.
Bradford pear bad?
I don't think they're quite on that level.
Okay.
They're not quite there. Don't worry, people. We will talk about the Bradford pear. Or
yeah.
Go look up.
Talk about a request.
Yeah, go look up Black Forager's video on
yes.
that. That was so good.
It's all you need to know.
It just doesn't smell that good, I think. It's a fine way to put it.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, it's another big flowering tree, and then it gets this little disease, and half the leaves die anyway by mid-July, and they just are naked, sticky-looking trees. However, as I was reading through it, and I went up to the Hoyt Arboretum a couple of years ago, and I saw these hawthorns, and I have to keep remembering, when you just set a beautiful hawthorn tree in the ground and you let it grow, and you just don't mess with it. You let it, you prune it up gently as needed, and you just let it develop what it's going to develop. It has all these branches and twigs and sticks that are going in every which direction, and it just looks like a hurricane of sticks,
yes.
like a crow's nest.
Yes.
And I'm just like, that's one of the most beautiful trees I've ever seen. Why don't they look like that? And I think because people think they know what they should do with trees, so they would just whack at them and clean them out and do all these things to them. It's like, just let the tree do its thing.
Yes.
It's going to be fine. So I have to temper it a little bit and be like, okay, first off, in certain situations, it all slightly invasive, so I'm going to take a little bit down for that because it's here, but we put it here. The tree's just doing its thing. Okay. I'm going to give this tree a 6.2.
Oh, that's a little lower than I imagined you were going with
I know. Well, lower, really.
Yeah, I thought you were ramping up to like an 8 something.
No, sorry. Yeah, it's all right, 6.3.
No.
I'm going to go 6.3, and here's why.
Okay.
I'm afraid of fairies.
A little bribe for the fairy queen.
Just a little bribe for the fairy queen. Please let me sleep tonight. and don't, give me at least one, give my crops one good year, please.
Great.
There it is, 6.3.
6 golden cones of honor.
6.3 golden cones of honor.
Plus a small handful of scales.
Yeah. All right. So what about you, Alex, as our resident fairy expert?
All right. Well, I'm far from an expert, Casey.
All right.
I do love magical creatures. I love magic in general. I love fantasy. I love mythology. Loving all that stuff since I was a young lad. In the hills of Ireland.
In a fairy tree.
I like the common hawthorn a lot. If you showed this tree to me without any context, cultural context, I might be like, "Oh, that thing's ugly as fuck. I don't want to even look at it." However, I think knowing that it's a fairy tree, I look at it now and I'm like, "Ooh, what a beauty!" Like,
what a beauty.
I loved how you said it's a hurricane of branches. It is just like a mess, and
it's intense.
I think a lot of us can relate to that. I love that about it. It looks old. It looks like a fairy portal.
Yeah, it totally does. Especially some of these pictures of these the Gastonbury thorn and the Hereford thorn. Not Hereford.
I'm gonna look up the Gastonbury thorn. This makes for good radio, right?
Yeah, the typing on Google.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, come on now.
Yeah.
That's
imposing.
incredible. And it's like up on like a barrow. Is that what you call it?
I'm not sure.
All right.
I'm going to say yes. That's exactly what it is.
I'm not great at geological features.
Is that a volcano? I can't tell.
No, Alex, it's a tree.
It's a tree.
I am going to give the common hawthorn. Oh, the very last thing I want to say about the common hawthorn.
Yeah.
I like its name because I think it sounds like an insult.
That's you're nothing but a common hawthorn.
Yeah.
In what context would you insult someone with it?
I think
in
like
that way?
I think like a group of friends out for the night and there's
right.
like some tension. Like maybe somebody's dating someone else's ex and like
God.
nobody's talking about it. And then like that person has a few too many beers, and then I don't know why I say she, but they start to go after the person a little bit. And you're like, you know what? You're nothing but a common hawthorn.
Like,
and everybody's like, Sarah, what the fuck?
Jeez, Sarah.
You can't say that.
Stop.
Love that.
You're just a common hawthorn.
I'm giving the common hawthorn a straight, seamless 8.0.
8.0.
Yeah, that's what it gets from me. But I respect you. I respect and understand your 6.3.
All right, that's fair. 8.0.
Oh, you know,
You're gonna.
Maybe I should chip in a few scales for the Faerie Queen. It doesn't hurt.
You might as well. And you
All
know
right.
what? I mean, she's pretty powerful.
8.4.
8.4.
I'm hoping I get to sleep tonight.
Your crops are going to be insane this year.
Yes.
Oh my God.
The monstera in my kitchen. I'm gonna wake up to golden fruits dripping off of it.
Oh, this is gonna be a boon. Good for us.
Hey, not a bad showing from the common hawthorn, and fascinating tree.
Fascinating.
With a fascinating cultural relevance. Casey, it's time for a bit of a game.
Alex, what game is it?
Well, it's a game that I'm officially lazily calling Family Tree.
Oh, that's a good name.
We played it a couple weeks ago when we talked about the Greek mythological gods.
Oh.
And we assigned each of them a tree
Yes.
to fit their personality.
Okay, all right.
Well, we're doing the same thing tonight, only we're not doing Greek mythological gods because it's not on theme.
Yeah, nope.
I was going to do something else, but I ended up settling on semi-popular UK rock band, the Beatles.
What? I've never heard of them.
You did, when I told you about this right before we recorded, you did say, and I quote, "Ooh, you're going to have to help me out on that one." To which my jaw hit the floor.
Alex, there's some things that stay between you and me.
Hey, I would share anything with our fans, Casey.
No. Gotta hold something back. Like,
Well-
I don't know the Beatles that well.
And I think that's okay. I think anything is okay.
Yeah, the collective, like, everyone's like, what?
Yeah.
Beatles are the Beatles.
I just heard a million souls cry out.
I'm so sorry, you guys.
A million.
I think Ringo's the best.
Oh, I thought you called him Gringo. That's what I heard.
Oh God, no. I'm not. No. All right.
Texas Beatles. We start with Gringo.
The Texas Beatles. Yeah, well, he's mesquite.
All right, so let's start with Ringo, the drummer of the Beatles, Casey.
All right, star with 2 R's.
The beat caster. Caster. I meant to say keeper.
I like caster.
Yes,
Yeah.
the beat caster.
Yeah, he casts the beats.
Onto the
Skins.
drum heads.
Yeah,
Yes, the
exactly.
skins,
Yeah.
So Ringo Starr,
God.
from all accounts, a peace-loving man.
Yeah. Can I get a quick background? Like who's Ringo? Give me a little.
Ringo
bit.
Starr's just like a bad drummer.
What?
Yeah.
It's drummer of the Beatles.
Well,
I think I have heard that Paul McCartney once said he's not even the best drummer in the Beatles.
that's right. Yeah.
Oh, how do you get? That's such a mean thing to say.
He's not a great drummer. He's a very famous drummer.
That's reasonable.
From all accounts, from all like documentary footage I've seen, he seemed like when he was young. I'm sort of what I knew of them from when they were like popular.
Yeah.
I wasn't alive, but he's kind of a goofball, kind of a mysterious, like, is he joking sort of character? Like, is he acting that way on purpose, or is that he's kind of a troll maybe?
Yeah. Ooh.
In internet parlance.
Yeah.
But he also, I think he's probably kind of a sweetheart.
Okay.
But he's just kind of a doofball. He famously wrote, or at least sings, Yellow Submarine. Octopus's Garden.
I love that song.
Yeah, those are good songs.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So that's Ringo, and he's the drummer, and his name is Ringo.
Okay. I play the drums every now and then.
That's right.
You know, so I got a little bit there. I'm also not the best drummer on my drum set. So
Casey's a fine
that's
drummer.
fair. You're so sweet to say this. Every time I say that, you always encourage me.
I want to stand up for you because you won't.
You are the rock that I stand upon.
Oh my word.
All right. I'm gonna go with the it's called the witch elm.
Wow.
Yes, this is what I'm gonna do. Not unrelated, no relation to the witches that get make deals with the devil and the fairy queen.
Oh, these aren't
YCH.
Which is WYCH.
Yes. So
Ulmus glabra.
there is the famous it's a big tree. It kind of gets big. It kind of chills out. But there's also a weeping variety of it. It's a weeping kind of witch elm, and it grows. So here's why. Because it's kind of a doofy looking tree.
It is a bit doofy. It's a bit hawthorny.
It's a little bit hawthorny, but the difference is hawthorns grow and we'll send up a bunch of different shoots. This one, they graft it onto a single stem, and then it just kind of grows slowly and curvily outwards.
Okay.
But then also is weepy at the same time. So it grows really slowly because you can't really grow up if you're always weeping down. So you kind of have to help it out, and it slowly grows up a couple inches at a time. But a couple inches up and to the right, a couple inches up and to the left, and then all the other branches. And it's a mop top.
Oh, perfect, Case.
Yep, I have all the visual ideas of the Beatles.
That's fine.
So it's like this weird mop top
they all
tree.
have the same haircut.
That's
from that,
true, yeah.
From that era. So
I know. I was trying to think of several other.
They're all going to be this one tree.
So, yeah. And so it's kind of a funny looking tree, and it is I think the elms are really beautiful trees, and they don't have a lot of pizzazz. They don't have big flowers. The big famous American elms and all these kinds of things will grow really huge and have these really nice canopies, and they're incredible trees.
Love an American elm.
These don't do that.
Okay.
They just kind of get a little scraggly sometimes.
I think that's great.
Specifically, the weeping one is what I'm thinking of.
Okay.
The weeping witch elm.
The weeping witch elm
Yes.
for Ringo Starr.
That's it.
Sorry, guy.
Yep.
He has a really funny video. I can't remember what he's even talking about in the video, but at the end he goes, "Peace and love, peace and love," and I always think about that.
That sounds like my kind of guy.
It pops into my head at least once a month. Ringo Starr saying, "Peace and love." All right, Casey. Next we have.
All right.
George Harrison.
Oh God.
Guitarist for the Beatles.
Guitarist.
I would call him probably the solo guitarist. I reckon.
What? Oh, okay. All right.
As opposed to the rhythm guitarist. George Harrison. From what I understand, he is like all of the quiet, emotional, artistic men in my life really love George Harrison.
Really?
Yeah. So I think he's kind of an understated, doesn't like the limelight necessarily.
All right.
Maybe a humble guy.
Look at that mustache.
Yeah, incredible
Wow.
stash. He hit from his music. I'm led to believe that he is in touch with, his third eye and what is beyond that we can't see. And yeah, and he's a guitarist. He's a fine guitarist.
He's a fine guitarist.
He's a good songwriter too.
This one's hard. Because I'm feeling like I feel something like a Japanese maple.
Okay.
Where it's a great maple. There are better maples, but this is a fine maple.
Okay.
It's beautiful. Doesn't get too big. It's not the star of the show unless it is the star of the show.
There
in which
you
case,
go.
it's the star of the show.
If it's a statement tree, or what did you call them?
Specimen trees.
Specimen tree.
Yes.
Then it's like, wow, look at that Japanese maple.
Yeah.
But if it's among a bunch of other trees, you might miss it.
Yeah, you might just there's another little maple tree growing over there.
I think that's great.
I think it's what it is. It's also got very beautiful foliage, especially in the fall. It turns this really nice orange color. And some of them are red all the time. And
Yeah.
they are also... There's weeping varieties that make them a little mop toppy. Just
Okay.
saying. I don't know about the mustache, but yeah, that's where I fall short. Doesn't have a good mustache.
Can I
It'd
give
have
you
to be like a Norway maple.
my choice?
Yeah, of course.
I'm going lodgepole pine.
Lodgepole pine.
Yeah.
Oh, why?
And I think especially as compared to the ponderosa pine.
Okay, all right.
Because it's not flashy. It's just like a thin, tall tree.
It's just here's a thin, tall tree with a big puff at the top.
Yeah, and the puff can be representative of the mop top or mustache.
Man, it's got to be that mustache.
If we knew the Beatles better, we might be doing a better job of this, but I think we're doing okay.
I'm going to grow a mustache like George Harrison. That's my goal now.
Heck yeah, I can see that.
All right.
Get really into guitar and then always wear your guitar like up on your neck, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I want to play it with my mustache.
There you go.
That's the whole point of it.
This is a natural mustache or a mechanical mustache?
It's a natural mustache. You know, it's a mustache that's so large that you talk to the mustache, not the rest of my face.
See, this is what those 0.3 cones are going to get you from the fairy god.
Oh, I'm gonna go pick some Hawthorn leaves and rub them on my face tonight. Oh, I'm so excited.
Oh, it's like a big situation. You wake up and you accidentally rub them on your lips, and now your lips are humongous.
Oh my gosh! I was expecting. I don't even know what I was expecting.
All right.
All right. Who's next?
Next is famous asshole John Lennon.
What? Come on.
Sorry.
I didn't know he was an asshole.
John Lennon?
Yeah.
You didn't know John Lennon was an asshole?
I guess not.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to put you on blast.
Well, maybe he was I heard that he let fame go a little bit too much to his head.
Yeah, I think
Something like that.
And also just like, I don't know. I can't stand the man personally.
Really? So what tree are you going to choose for him?
I think it's tragic what happened to him.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But I also think he was a talented musician and songwriter. But I also think that he was kind of a piece of shit.
Oh.
But I honestly couldn't think of a tree to.
Okay,
I don't know, something with thorns.
Something with thorns.
Or
he was a little abrasive.
Something a little pretentious, possibly.
Yeah, all
I hope
right.
I don't get people adding me, like calling me a Lennon hater. Or
there
something.
are a lot of people who really like John Lennon.
It's true.
Hey, you know what, Alex?
I'm not one of them.
This is a free space. We can do this.
You're right.
I give cones or golden cones of honor to trees that people really like, and I don't give as many.
That's right.
So I think we have this is our art.
And I think the people who don't like John Lennon will come out of the woodwork for this. And no, that's not a pun.
It wasn't. No, it's a common term.
Yeah.
All right. I think. Okay. So, but he was a talented musician. He sang a lot, didn't he? As I recall.
Yeah, he was one of the main two singers of the Beatles.
Yep. So
he wrote Imagine.
Oh yeah, didn't he also do the Crow song? No. Yeah, Blackbird.
Oh, no, that's Paul McCartney.
Oh, God. Oh, man. People are going to get so mad at me.
It's okay.
Ask me about Elton John.
Yeah, what kind of tree is Elton John?
Oh, Elton John, Polonia,
Wow.
every day of the week.
Polonia?
Yeah. Oh, man. It's got the most audacious purple flowers before the leaves even come on.
You weren't kidding.
The leaves are huge.
The leaves are ginormous.
Oh, God. Elton John's a Polonia any day of the week.
Elton John's 100% a Polonia.
Yeah. I mean, you see that purple color?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Looks like bell bottoms waiting to happen.
It's this big, beautiful lilac tree with these huge ass leaves.
The leaves are like double the size of your head.
Yeah, they really are, and what I like about them is that they're like perfect, like octagons.
Yes, yeah, they really are.
They're incredibly octagonal.
Yeah. Okay, but we're not talking about LJ.
No, we're talking about
John
JL.
Lennon. Yeah, JL. All right. So let's see. I think I want to go with like I feel like a pine tree, like
Okay.
a little bit rough, a little bit like, oh, you're just kind of annoying sometimes, but I still really like you and you did some cool stuff.
Okay.
So I think I want to go with like the pitch pine. No, the table mountain pine.
Okay.
Extremely pokey, unfriendly to be around. It has a lot of cones on it, but you know what? It has always the option. It's growing in a kind of place where it could grow big and wild, but it's just kind of gnarly and scraggly. It looks like it's misunderstood, but at the same time, it's probably pretty understood.
I like the cone.
The cone's one of my favorites.
It looks like a coulter pine.
Yeah, and it stays on the. It's much smaller. It stays on the stem way back.
Yeah, it's like attached to this. It's like glued to the stem.
Yeah, it doesn't come off.
It's growing straight out of the stem.
Yep, that's right.
I guess all cones grow straight out of the stem.
Yeah, the stems just usually don't get. As the stems get bigger, the cones fall off. In this case, as the stems get bigger, the cones just stay there.
Wait a minute. You have in your cone crate
Yes.
a branch with a cone growing out of it. Is
Yeah.
that a mountain top table
Yes,
pine?
I actually have two different kinds that do that. One is this, the table mountain pine, and the other one grows natively in Oregon and Northern California, called the Pinus attenuata, the knob cone pine.
Knob cone.
Yeah, and there's actually knob cone pine will grow and envelop the cone, and then you can cut through the wood and find like basically ingrown cones that the tree's just grown around.
Fascinating.
Yeah, isn't it great?
We'll have to talk about that sometime.
Oh, we certainly will.
What was that called? The
Knob cone pine.
The knob cone pine.
Yeah, the K at the beginning.
Well, Casey, we come to my favorite beetle.
Oh, this is your favorite?
I think anybody who truly knows me and knows the Beatles' personalities would probably guess that I'm a Paul stan.
Why is that?
I just love Paul McCartney.
Really?
He's so talented. He's such. I'm about to sound like a mom. He's so talented. He's such a sweetheart.
I really want you to date Paul McCartney.
Why don't you date a nice man like Paul McCartney? He's such a good songwriter. He's an incredible musician.
I liked him with Wings.
Great in Wings. Great in the Beatles. I'm being serious.
I just love that. I don't think anyone's ever been like, man, I really liked Wings.
Baby, I'm amazed. Come on now. Yeah, he's the coolest. And he was like, there's pictures of him with like a department store guitar, and he's like 12 years old. And I remember when I started playing guitar and I saw a picture of him, and I was like, hey, we all started somewhere.
Yes.
And it meant a lot to me.
That is so beautiful. We all did start somewhere.
Yeah.
Just a cone kicked around in the gutter, pick it up, and now look at you.
Yeah, look at me now. Wow. I have a podcast about trees.
We've made it. Oh, geez. All right. Paul McCartney. Mm-hmm. Baby, I can feel everything. Okay. All right.
Baby, I'm afraid of the way I do.
That's it. Okay. All right. I'm feeling it a little bit. I'm getting it. All right.
I can keep going.
Yeah, I'd like you. Could you sing the whole thing?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. How long is the song?
This is it's a 7-minute. Well, my version is a 10-minute epic ballad.
Let's do it. I got all the time in the world.
I would, Casey, but we're running a little late on this episode.
Oh, okay. All right. So I feel like Paul McCartney would have a lot going on. Like big, flowery, beautiful, but not like too beautiful, but just strong enough. Capacious.
Yeah. He's also he's a bassist.
Yeah, that's right. Because he's famous for playing the mandolin style bass.
Yeah, the Honer.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go the European horse chestnut.
Wow.
That's the tree I choose.
I'm gonna Google it.
And here's why. It has it's a big tree. It's got some rough bark, but it's also really beautiful, and it's got very delicate looking leaves, especially when it comes out. The leaves are palmately compound, which is a somewhat rarity in trees that are in the temperate regions. So I think
palmately.
Oh, they are palmately. Oh, get out of town.
It's a palmate tree.
We can only make music puns on this podcast. There is, but yeah, it also has in the springtime these beautiful, beautiful flowers, and I love them to death.
I see the leaves look a little cannabis-esque.
They do, yeah, a little bit, yeah. Not quite the same, but yes, they are esque. I believe that would be a perfect description.
I think they're a little esque.
And funny enough, it is a very common tree over in Europe, and it was a childhood game for a lot of people in England. They call it knockers, and they would take the little horse chestnut fruit, and they would knock them together. And I don't remember exactly what the game was, but
like
it was,
marbles.
I think so, but I don't know exactly. It was a childhood game, I think, of people way back when. I think it's still played, but not quite as much. Now kids don't go out and pick up sticks and play with them. They just go and play their Switches or something.
That's right.
Yeah.
Kids and Alex.
Alike. All right, that's what I'd say.
All
yeah.
right, fantastic. I'm looking at a picture of it, the European horse chestnut. It's beautiful because I like it as a Paul thing because it's kind of got it all. It's got a beautiful flower. It's got a fruit. It's got a great nut. You can play knockers with it.
That's right.
And it's it's just a good looking tree.
There you go. This is
for a good looking man.
a good looking man, a man that you should be dating.
Maybe I will date Paul McCartney.
I think you should. I mean,
if anybody has any connections to Paul McCartney,
it's you.
Add us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's me.
Sorry. Yes, add us too.
My uncle.
Yeah, it's my uncle. Well, you shouldn't date your uncle.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, but if someone else says that, is that what you're saying? I see. Yeah, so if someone else is like, yeah, Paul's my uncle, I'll send you an email.
We just miscommunicated so hard for like 15 seconds straight.
Yes.
A perfect time for our completely arbitrary Q&A. Casey, this question this week is from listener Jason Bernert.
Oh, I know that name.
Yeah, he's an old childhood friend of Casey and I. This isn't nepotism, but it may be. Jason asks, what up, Alex and Casey? First time, long time.
Jason.
While laying in my hammock between two juniper trees in southwest Colorado, I wondered to myself, in terms of structure and aesthetics, what's your favorite hammock tree?
God, I love that Jason's doing that right now.
That's right.
Shout out those two junipers.
Yeah, holler. He also says, I've been listening since episode 1, and I finally decided to become a patron.
Oh, did he?
On Patreon.
What a guy.
He's in the Cone of the Month Club, Case.
The Cone of the Month. He's a cone of my month.
You two have brought so many smiles to my face in a time when we could all use a little levity. Thank you so much, Fungal Associate for Life. Jason.
FAFOL. All about that.
Oh, no. Now people are going to request FAFOL t-shirts.
Hey, who controls this Instagram? I do. It's my new hashtag. I'm going to put it before everything else. It's going to be the first hashtag.
All right. Well, what do you think? Let's get into what you need out of a good hammock tree.
Okay. So here's my thought. First off, there's an assumption that we have to make. So Jason did note he was between two trees. So I think we need to make a distinction here between two trees, in which case it could be literally any tree that's just not a little whip of something that's going to fall as soon as you sit on it.
Okay.
Personally, last year I set a hammock between two like 3-foot diameter ponderosa pines.
Perfect.
And the ochicos. They were wonderful. You don't move. They got rough bark, so the ropes don't they slide down. They
settle into the grooves of the bark.
Exactly. Yeah. So you got that. The bark's thick enough that you lay on it, you're not going to pull it too tight and damage the tree.
Yeah.
They're also massive trees, so the trees probably were like, is there something down there?
Right.
I can't even tell. I don't know.
Is that a squirrel?
Yeah, I can't. Whatever.
Human squirrel, Casey
It's
Clapp.
a human squirrel. That's me.
You are a squirrel.
I'm going to climb a tree tomorrow.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway, so I would say literally any tree is a good tree. Preferably a tree that's out at like the top of a precipice, so that as you lay in your hammock, it's a beautiful view going in some direction. Ideally sunset, but you take what you get.
Okay.
That's what I'd say.
Any tree.
Any two trees.
Yes.
However,
oh boy,
if it's just one tree, have you thought about this, Alex?
No.
So ponderosa pine, a single-stemmed tree, or a tree that has a single stem for most of the time. Then you have, hammock between the two main stems, you're low to the ground. Now, what if you wanted to instead put a hammock, say, 40 feet up into a tree?
I would not.
Well, there are those of us out there that's the only thing we'd think of. Now, safety first. Climb a tree with safety in mind, so you're not going to fall out when you're hanging in your hammock and fall 40 feet. But let's say that you are in a tree. Maybe you just want to go up 10 feet, and you want this. You only have one tree, and that's the only tree you have. You live in a very dry, arid space. You would want to find a tree that is strong wooded, first off, that has not got any decay in it or anything like that. And it needs to have an open canopy that is only kind of at the edges. Think about like a globe kind of tree, like a maple sort of thing. And it wouldn't be a shade-tolerant tree because you don't want a bunch of trees grown down in the middle. So it's not going to be something like a beech tree or a Sitka spruce, because it's going to have it's just going to be one single stem. It's going to be a bunch of branches and things underneath. You're not going to like it.
Oh, you're looking for sort of a hollow, hollow canopy.
Exactly. Okay. But you don't want to do it to a tree that has leaves under there, because those leaves are really important for the tree. But if it does it itself, then it's not important to the tree. Okay. So you can get you can find some trees that grow up one single stem, and then they have branches that not only grow out away from each other, but do it at a light angle. So they actually come out like oblique I think it's an oblique angle, more than 90 degrees.
Yeah, almost like a U shape.
Yes, exactly.
There's a Douglas fir not 20 feet from us outside.
Totally.
That grows the same way.
That would be the best, except most likely that's because something damaged the top of that tree.
Oh.
But it would still work
Yeah.
in this case. Now, if it was a tree that was a broadleaf tree, like an elm tree, or I'm actually thinking of a tree. It doesn't get very big, but when it does get big, man, that's nice. It's called a colataria, a golden chain tree. No, golden rain tree.
How about an Oregon white oak?
Older Oregon white oak would be great. Those are perfect. Strong woods or strong wooded tree. It's got that thick and really textured bark. But yeah, so you want a tree that kind of grows up, splits apart, and has enough space inside of the canopy that you can actually set a full, 10-foot hammock distance from like branch to branch, and still have enough room for you to sit your whole body in there.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, so that would be a tree that's wide open and has nice, big, strong branches, but branches and makes these big, they're called scaffold limbs, which are those big, gigantic ones that aren't quite holding individual leaves, but they're holding up all the other little ones that have individual leaves. You want to have big but medium-sized scaffold branches, and you want a bunch of them, and you want them to start maybe like 10 feet off the ground or so.
Okay.
Climb on up there, set it in the middle, make sure that you're tied in so that if you do that classic, like, oh, I dropped something, you lean over and then you have that flip out of the hammock.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe if you just have a rope tied to you so that you don't fall out.
That's my move.
You should do it between two trees, Alex.
I should do it on the ground. Treat the hammock like a sleeping bag.
I would say don't do it on a pine tree. Because when you get out and you put your feet on the ground, you're inevitably going to step on pine needles.
Ooh.
I know you don't like that. So.
Wait, you did suggest ponderosa pine.
Yes, it's because I like walking on ponderosa pine.
Oh, you're talking about me specifically.
Yes,
well,
you specifically. And juniper's a great choice out there in Colorado where Jason's at.
Yeah.
Because they're strong wooded trees. It smells lovely underneath them. They're short enough, and so you can just put it. They get stout, I guess, much shorter. So you have really strong trees that aren't that tall.
Cool.
Yeah, as long as you don't walk on the really pokey little juvenile leaves. Those suck. It feels like it's a thorn. It's not.
Interesting.
It's just pokey.
No, they just fall off onto the ground. And then
Yeah, they're just old leaves. Yeah.
I see.
Anyway.
Well, there you go. Thanks for your question, Jason. We
There
hope
you
you're
go.
doing well out there on the road on your epic road trip.
Man, it's so epic. Everyone should follow him.
Yeah. What is his? Hey, Ma, I'm alive.
Yeah, that's it with underscores.
Yep.
Watch some traversing of the country.
Yeah, he got like a what is that van called?
Oh, the Sprinter van.
Sprinter van.
Yeah.
And he's just cruising around the country.
Man, would that I could.
Yeah, that'd be fun. If you have a question about trees or other such things,
Yeah, like who's Alex's favorite Beatle?
yeah. Well, now you know.
Now we know. We have to ask who's your favorite The Who.
The Who. I don't even know.
Oh.
Pete Townsend, is he from The Who?
He's a guitarist, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Keith Moon's my favorite.
Oh, you're a Moon man.
Yeah, one time he put so many explosives in his bass drum at some show, it blew him off of his drum set.
Hell yeah.
He was insane, man.
That's real rock and roll.
It's such rock and roll.
If you have a question about trees, email us at arbitrarypod@gmail.com.
Rock and roll.
Check us out on Instagram at arbitrarypod. Or if you really want to support the podcast more than just listening for free, which we're also completely happy to have you do.
Love it.
You can join us on Patreon, patreon.com/arbitrarypod, Casey.
That's the one, I believe.
You can become a tree hugger. You can become part of the Arboretum for $5 a month, listen to 2 extra episodes on all sorts of things. Or you can join the Cone of the Month Club and receive a unique cone sticker every month with an info card. And I want to give a quick plug to April's cone artist. Mm-hmm. Her name is Jocelyn Richards Daniels. She draws fucking just incredible, almost photorealistic illustrations of foliage.
And everyone in April is going to get one Douglas fir cone.
That's right. I know I'm biased, but April's a really good month to join the Cone of the Month Club.
No, it's a pretty good one.
And once these cones are gone, they're gone, baby.
They're gone.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Completely Arbitrary. You know, Casey, I think I am feeling a little better.
You look great. It's because you gave so many golden cones of honor to the Hawthorn.
That's right.
You praised the queen,
yes.
fairy queen.
Anytime I give golden cones, I feel chipper.
Yeah, it's excellent.
It's one of my favorite hobbies.
Well, I do it every week with you.
That's right.
Peace and love, Alex.
Peace and love, Casey. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Completely Arbitrary. I almost forgot the name of our podcast. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Completely Arbitrary is produced by Alex Crowson and Casey Clapp. Our production consultant is Olivia Franke. Our artwork is by Jillian Barthold, and our music is by the Mini Vandals. Thanks for listening.